Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Business Reboot Toolkit. It's a mini series to give dental practice owners ideas on how to effectively help their teams grow their business successfully in this current climate. So joining us today is our first guest speaker of the series, Jayne Bandy. She's the CEO and founder of Dental Phone Excellence and also Call Tracking Excellence. So Jayne basically began her professional career as in the education industry, and after being in there for several years, she eventually moved on to becoming a practice owner for a very successful practice in Sydney, and she was there for 25 years in total. And during that time, she was on the battlefield dealing with how to manage patient inquiries and bookings efficiently and effectively. And I'm sure, she would have had lots of experience with dealing with front office coordinators as well. So, welcome, Jayne. Great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Now, Jayne, I'm just wondering if, before we begin, if you can just briefly explain to the audience what your business actually does and, how you found your niche in the first place.
Okay, so thanks for that introduction, Becky. And you're right. I think a lot of people who are listening to this would realise with their teams that it can be a battlefield as well. They think the battlefield is actually in the dental chair, but it can get a bit gory out the front at the front office as well. And thank you for the honour of having me as your first speaker during the presentation today. So I didn't realise that. So thank you very much.
No, it's great to have you.
But I think, if I go back just briefly in history about how I started in the profession, and really, my background is I'm actually a teacher. I'm actually a classroom teacher. And I married a dentist, and eventually one thing led to another. And after having my family and then working in my husband's practice together, we just thought that, teaching and working in a dental practice, we put the two together and voila, here I am. I popped out of a box. Well, not quite. Right. After years of experience. But then it was, I felt like it was time to still work in the dental profession, but what could I do? What could I offer? So I started having little chats with people at dental practices, and dentists would say to me, you've got some great ideas, and, you know how to teach, so why not go out and spread the word? And that's what I've been doing probably for the last 6 years. And it's been an interesting journey. But I think, I wanted to really offer something a little bit different. I didn't want to just go into dental practices and only teach, even though that's a big part of it. I really wanted to get in touch with their purpose and what are they actually doing on at the front office, and the empowerment that they have, and the effect they have on businesses is great. And more dentists are realizing this, and that's why they're now focused so much on their front office and being able to help them with phone skills and patient communication. So it was looking at, what's their purpose and how can I help them with my training and my teaching to give them steps to follow that are easy, they're achievable, and they feel good about it as well. And even more important, I can do that part, but then it's about teaching them and empowering them to feel that they're confident that they can actually use these skills. Because we all know that, and I know you posted something on social media just today, I think it was, Becky, about the fact that, if we haven't got action with what we're learning, with our knowledge, then really what is the point of it? And I think that goes very much for front offices, that we need to not only teach them, but to empower them, to let them know that, yes, this is the difference you're going to make, and how to actually, action that and to get the results. Because, and this is what I do when I'm working with dental teams right now. And it's been an interesting battle with COVID-19, not only with people health, but also the health of dental businesses and other businesses at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's so important to marry the two. You've got the knowledge, and then to be able to implement that and put that together is so important.
Yeah, and I think that's missing with a lot of, trainings and coaching that's out there. We're not actually showing them the way and guiding them to be able to then go and use it continuously, not just once or twice. drop it, but
Mm.
continuously, especially when we're getting great results. And if
Yeah.
we're not, we know we start, and I'll talk about this later in our talk about, making sure that we measure the results.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with your current clients at the moment and their practices, Jayne, what sort of changes or trends do you see, or, what things do you foresee upcoming with obviously the COVID-19 now, in terms of, what we should be saying to our patients over the phone, or, what are some things to sort of look out for in terms of how the patients might engage with us as well?
Yeah, and I think that's really important for people listening today. They want, hey, what can you tell me that I can use right now after listening to you? And that would be really good to give, all the listeners here today something that they can start. And I think with the COVID-19, I know, I've been talking to a lot of dentists for this whole period of time and working with them.
Yeah.
And knowing, looking at the success rate of the dentists right now and who are doing really well, and the difference between the people who are doing really well and those that are struggling right now is the ones doing well had it all set up right from the beginning. They followed, the guidelines of what can we be doing right now. But that's not to say if you haven't done that, it's too late. You need to look at, the present right now and be present in your practice. And I think with COVID-19, again, I always say, keep up that screening, look at your appointment schedule. What the team need to say is not to downplay COVID-19, because we need to still keep it really important for patients to be aware and safe, but for them to know that we're keeping them safe. It's a time to make sure your practice is really patient-centered, that everything you do is about them and not so much about you. Even though we know that we're keeping not only our practitioners healthy, we're keeping our team healthy, we're keeping the general community healthy as well as our patients. But, reassuring our patients on the phone,
Yes.
making sure they know we're open. I can't believe how many calls I do listen to, and sometimes it is from the people I'm working with, and I've had to say to them, get some stuff out there on social media. Let them know that you are open for business as usual to care for them and help them. A lot of them have been waiting in the background, waiting and waiting, and if we don't let them know, and even those new patients who were thinking of coming to us have delayed that, and now wanting to come back. I hear so many phone calls of people saying they want to come in to have their teeth straightened right now.
Yeah.
So they're out there, but we need to make sure we're in front of them and they know that it's okay, because if they don't, they're just going to go somewhere else. So
Yes.
be the practice where you're fully informed about what's happening right now. Get stuff on your social media, on your website. And I know this isn't part of what I usually do in my training, but I've had to pivot and change with COVID-19 of how I work with dental teams. And heaven forbid, I never thought I'd have to call all my clients and say, okay, this is what we need to now say when we ring our patients to reschedule. It was just horrible experience for me. And I had to come up with a whole new way of having these conversations with patients, to help teams. And we did it. And then we had to ring them back again and tell them it's okay now to come back in. Or some of them we had to actually ring a second time because we didn't know what those future appointments were. We were just really guessing. And but we had to appear on the phone like we knew everything was under control. We were reassuring them, making them feel confident that, we were looking after them the whole time. So it was a challenge. It was a battle.
I think that's a really good tip. I think too, sometimes, because there's so much going on, and that's, as you know, I'm a social and emotional intelligence coach, so I'm very much into the whole emotions thing. And I think at the moment, because the emotions can be so heightened for the patients, but also for the staff members, that confidence really, as we all know, the person with the most confidence will influence the person with the least confidence. So having that confidence is so important. Otherwise, patients will just lose confidence, and they, especially with the mixed messages going out, they probably would be like, do I really want to book in, or maybe I should just wait a bit longer. So I think that's a really good tip there.
Yeah, and it's interesting with teams because some of them said to me, "Oh, but I don't feel confident." I said, "Okay, well, let's work on what we can say, because often when we know what to say, and we've had to, I've just had a horrible experience. I may have lost some power here. Let me just double check. It's live here, and it's all good. Let me have a look. No, Yeah, I have lost a bit of power here. Yep.
But we can still hear you and see you.
Yeah, I'm just going to double check my connection here. Should be okay.
No.
Looks okay, and it's connecting now. Oh my gosh, I know I live in the country, but gosh.
No, it can't be that bad.
I've got little mice running on wheels to power my energy source.
Yes.
But I'm just, it's like I'm like consciously looking at that power sign
no,
there.
don't go off.
I do apologise. But back to team members not having that confidence. So, you know, once they know what to say, that helps a bit. But, you know, some of them said, so do I just pretend that I'm confident? I said, that's a good start, because you might actually trick yourself into that level of confidence. And sometimes that can be a good start, but being prepared, being ready, knowing, you know, what to say and how to say it, and to really just, you know, exhale and try and work through it with patients and have those conversations, because a lot of the people that we're talking with, we already have a relationship with them. And if we didn't have that, now is a good time to realise how important having that closeness with your patients and that type of relationship, you know, really does help when you've got these situations, because they already trust you. All they're doing is extending that trust during this time. So it's actually been a winner for a lot of practices, because, you know, patients are saying, oh, my dentist was great. They did this, this and this. It's really reinforced how much you actually gave you an opportunity, even in a negative way. But yeah.
That's fantastic. Yes. So obviously at the moment there's lots and lots of questions that we're all meant to be asking right now with the screening, and, you know, talking about maybe even explaining some of the current hygiene policies and all that sort of stuff. I know we've had this conversation before, and I remember, because as you know, like my team's done a bit of work with you in the past, and I remember you throwing the number at me, the magic number of how long on average a telephone call should be with a client. Would you be able to enlighten everyone on how long usually on average, you know, a telephone call should take for you to be able to, I suppose, go through all the necessary things without it dragging, and being able to be quite productive? How long should that be?
And that's a really good question, Becky, because it's something that we don't often think about. You know, what's the average time our team is spending on the phone? And, you know, someone said to me, oh, how long should I stay on the phone with, especially with a new patient? And my answer really was, well, as long as it takes. But having said that, it can take anywhere between 2.4 and 2.6 minutes. Now, that average is based on my clients and looking at the new patient calls and knowing, because they're following the guidance I'm giving them on the steps of the new patient phone call, that we can do it in that time. The one thing, it's quite fascinating, the one area, or at one point of time on a phone call with a new patient that can take the most time, is trying to work out when they're actually going to come in. So we've actually converted them to an appointment, and we can spend 3 minutes actually getting to a point, say, where we're ready, we're going to make the appointment, everything's great, we've got a commitment from the patient that that's what they want to do right now, because we've taken them through the steps of suggesting to them what that next step is. And then we spend the next 5 minutes back and forward playing appointment tennis. Now, that's great if you love playing appointment tennis, but when I ask dental teams, they hate it. They go, oh, I can't say. And often what can happen as well, it can spoil the phone call to the point where the person on the end of the phone just gives up. I've had enough of playing tennis. I just want to have my lunch. I'll give you a call back. Let me think about it. I'll give you a call back. I'll have to check my diary now. So we actually steer them in that direction and not even know we're doing it. So, you know, during that 2.4, 2.6 minutes, we really should be, that should be a small part of the whole phone call. We should be ready. We should make it simple, easy, so we know that they're going to decide quickly and easily, and everything's going to be set up. You know, it's quite fascinating, and I listen to calls coming into practices, so I'm sort of privy to what's not only what patients are saying, but what dental teams are saying. I get to hear both, which is really exciting, because I have insight that not many people can say they have when it comes to the general public, and, you know, how they're feeling about things and their perspective as well as the perspective of the people answering the calls.
That is actually a really insightful thing to have, because, you know, often I'm sure a lot of owners would share the same sort of feelings or the same sentiments. You know, we all say, yep, you know, I'm going to delegate you to go and do this task, but then, you know, how is it done? And especially with a phone call, because you don't know what actually happened in that phone call and what the patient, you know, whether the patient had thrown a curveball at the receptionist, you don't actually know what's happened there. And then it's kind of like, okay, if it was mishandled, what actually happened? You don't know. So, but you probably do get to hear that, you know, when things don't, you know, when it doesn't end up being a, you know, an actual booking or a commitment, you get to hear that, don't you?
I do. And it's not that I don't like it when I hear it, but the good news is I see exactly at what point in the conversation it sort of turned. And how do we tweak and change? Just those things. And often what can happen is it's not just one isolated phone call. It's a pattern of behavior of how we actually converse with people on the phone. And, you know, I record the calls coming into my business as well. So I get to hear myself on phone calls and do a little bit of self-analysis, which is what I always encourage teams to do. When you hear yourself speaking, whether it's a presentation or whether it's a phone call, you start to see it differently, because what you think is happening is not what actually happened. It's completely different a lot of the time. And it's not like really it's Big Brother trying to catch people out. It's not like that. It's about learning and getting better and really finding out where you need to improve. And really everyone should be wanting that in their jobs. Absolutely.
Yeah, just to be able to get that feedback and the evaluation to work on that. So with the COVID-19 now and all the screening, how much longer do you think phone calls should be?
Okay, and it's funny because someone did ask me that question the other day as well. It shouldn't increase it by too much. At the moment, I'm seeing a little fluctuation in maybe another minute or so on the phone, because what we've got to do is we have to spend a bit more time reassuring and answering questions. Not so much initially at the beginning of the phone call, because I always think the questions that callers ask should be answered further into the conversation. We ask them permission to ask our own questions first, and then we take them along the journey of question answer, where we're asking the questions, they're answering, then we address their questions. So with COVID, they're ringing up and they're asking things like, as I said, are you open? Is it safe for me to have this dental treatment done? Maybe I should put it off a bit longer. You know, so people may be returning phone calls to the practice or just ringing because they've jumped in before we followed up with them, or new patients. So there's a little bit of angst and confusion. So that takes a little bit of time to handle. Plus we've got the inaugural screening questions that we need to medico-legally have to ask every single patient. So if your team are asking them every now and then, only to some, be careful, because this is mandatory. We have to. We've been told that by governing bodies and our government that as medical providers, we have to screen. Okay, so we screen on the phone, but we screen at the end of the phone call. So if a new patient calls up, we don't want to dive straight into screening them thinking, well, if they can't come in, then what's the point of having this conversation? Because the beautiful thing is,
it's tempting to do.
I know, because you're thinking you'll get to the end and then they say, I have been in contact with someone who has COVID-19, and yes, I am waiting for test results to come back. Is it still okay to come in? You know, the general public don't know as much as us, and we always have to remember that and nurture them in the conversation. But, when we get to that end of the conversation, so we've had an opportunity, even with a new patient, to be able to get them to the point of making an appointment, then we do the screening. The beautiful thing is, if they don't pass the screening test over the phone, we can still make a future appointment for them. We haven't lost them totally. It just means it's further in the track, and we explain to them that this will be the situation right now, but this is what we can do. And we move them to the next step. You go through the screening. We all know the screening question, so every single person should be asking it. Try not to feel too awkward about asking it. Keep it short and sweet. So you don't want to, catastrophize it any more than what we've had for the last, 3 months. You want to make it sort of matter of fact, because I've heard it everywhere. They're expecting it. Sorry about this.
Oh, you've gone on mute. Sorry, Jayne, you've gone on mute.
That's okay.
Yep, yep.
I'm so sorry about that. I know what's happened. I've got a terrible timing out on my computer, and for some reason on our platform, it's kicking in. So my apologies there. The
No,
beautiful part, we can't cut this either. So,
no.
yeah, so with that screening, you know, as I said, leave it to the end of the conversation. Make sure that we are doing it. Don't catastrophize it. Just make it matter of fact and ask permission. Do you mind if I just ask you a few questions, just so I can make sure that you're nice before you come in for an appointment? We want to keep you safe.
Yeah.
You know, make it about them. And most people that are asked, if they're asked the right way, they don't feel it's an imposition. They don't feel embarrassed about having to ask questions. And they just, you know, and then when they arrive at the practice, or when you do, if it's been a few days since you screened them last, don't feel afraid to do it again. When you do the courtesy call, to make sure, you keep in touch with them at their appointment, and then you do the temperature and just double check when they're in again. So it's like 3 points of screening, just to be on the safe side right now. And one day it too shall pass, and we won't, you know, but we'll be prepared for, you know, when I think COVID has really taught us how to pivot and to adapt and be flexible. Some practices have never had this experience. Most haven't. This is the first time I've experienced anything like this. And it's, you know, you had two choices. You could panic, or you could just think outside the box and work out, I need to do something right now. What will I do? And that's when we got advice from lots of different places and gathered it all up and put a plan into action, and still an ongoing plan.
That's a very good outlook, Jayne. Very good outlook. Okay, so I have another question for you. This is a little bit off track. It's not so much to do with telephone screening, but it's more so to do with, you know, how we can make sure that front office coordinators can remain quite efficient. What's, you know, if people are looking at, and I know, like for myself, for example, I've just recently changed dental software. And so for some people, there are practices that feel like, you know, now is a good time because maybe it's a little bit quieter in the books, or, you know, they just got a little bit more capacity to actually get it happening. If people are looking at transitioning from one dental software to another, what are some of the key features that you feel are really important that will help the front office coordinators or receptionists work really efficiently and productively out in the front? What makes their lives easier?
Okay, now it's interesting. Not that I want to make a joke of this at all, but I think the first step is to make sure you get some really good cakes in for morning tea, because transitioning to a new software is, having been through that experience a couple of times, it's can be seen to be quite traumatic for the team. You know, you want to put good justifications behind why this is going to be a good idea. How is this going to help them in their job to be easier and more effective? And if they see the light at the end of the tunnel, all their hard work will be worth it. But you have to keep them on track of getting excited, because it can be seen as a bit of a chore to make that transition.
Absolutely.
But there's so many. Yeah, there's so many different options of, I suppose it's limited, but there's so many different options. Do we go cloud-based? Do we not? Do we stick to, you know, logging in? And during COVID, it's been an interesting process because we've had to remotely access our software. We've had team members working at home that need to work remotely, so they need access to the appointment book. So some software I think has worked better than others. But, you know, looking at software, I just feel as long as you've got the option where you can at least put in a great template, so you can run your appointment book on, you know, a great production template that also helps patients as well. I wrote down a few things because I was thinking about, you might ask me this question about software, but, you know, also looking at what sort of automation does it offer? Does it offer something, you know, time effectiveness? Does it, with the SMS messages, does it do that effectively? Could it be better? And look around, look at all the different softwares. Don't feel like, oh, everyone says that one's the best. I'm just going to, you know, compare, because they probably are apples and oranges. You know, there are real differences when it comes to that. And I know a lot of people seem to be moving to cloud-based. I work with a lot of practices that have all different, so I'm not just working with a practice that has one particular software. And the other thing I always say to dental teams is look at the software and what it can do as well with reporting. So you want to be able to really get into the nuts and bolts of what the software, how it can disseminate the information we're putting into the software. I know it's not quite a CRM, so a customer relationship marketing tool, but maybe that's an option for down the track. Maybe they can splice the two together. Maybe there is a software company already doing that we can email our patients bulk emails through a server, that sort of building up customer relationships with them, with the information we put into the software, that it's easily retrieved. And if I think a lot of software at the moment, we don't utilize the support. Software companies, we're often paying monthly for, software companies are either going to love me or hate me right now, but they're usually paying monthly subscriptions. And they're not utilizing that. The team members should be saying, okay, I really need to find out, I need this information. I'll ring my software people, see what they can come up with.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yes, because I mean, this was why I transitioned. I wasn't getting a lot of support, and I would call up, and sometimes it'd be weeks before they'd get back to me. And then obviously since the transition, it's been great. Oh, I've been so apologetic every time we call, but literally I've now just said to all my team members, if you have issues with it, don't come to me. Just call the, call the guru, and then he'll help you with it. And they've been, quite supportive and great. So no, that's a really good point there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're right, they're the experts. Sorry, Becky.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Sorry, that's my fault. So apart from obviously the software, any other tools or gadgets that you can recommend? Because I know you've got a few things up your sleeve as well, don't you? In terms of, what things can help practice.
Well,
the front office coordination.
I mentioned earlier, I love these interviews. Sometimes it's like we don't intentionally talk over the top of each other because we never want to do that. But we're women. We do that really well anyway.
We do.
But I think, with what I was doing, as I said before, with Dental Phone Excellence, it was, I was able to create really great steps for them to follow, the purpose, the process, and the results that we wanted to get. But not knowing what was being said on the phone was a real stumbling block for me. I needed to work out a way. Now, I decided to set up Call Tracking Excellence, which is basically it's not even a product. I was trying to think of how to describe it. It's a result. It's the thing that you need to put in your practice in like 5-7 years' time. If you're the dental practice that doesn't record the calls coming into your business, you're going to be maybe one of few. You're going to be missing out on a lot of opportunity of knowing exactly who's contacting your practice. How is that marketing working? There needs to be a bridge. And at the moment, we throw so much money at marketing and we really downplay the internal marketing. And that's knowing what people are saying on the phone and how our team are, communicating with them and tweaking it and changing it so it becomes better and better and better. And we're on top of our game all the time. The huge companies out there have had it for years. That's how they become great companies, because they foster and they nurture this. Whereas the small people, the small dental practices, the small businesses never thought that was something they ever needed, but they do. And it is on a smaller scale, so it's doable. And I know that because I'm doing that with dental practices right now. And the difference has been phenomenal. Great to have training, but this is what helps them actually action it too and make their team accountable and get them moving on it, making sure that they're doing it. I often have dentists, Becky, that say to me, right, this is really great, Jayne. I love all this and I know they need it, but how do I get them to do it? How do I make them do it? So, and this is the question that everyone asks, don't they? It's sort of like our children, isn't it? I've told them what to do, but they're not doing it. How do I make them do it? Will I punish them if they don't do it? So it's about, we know we incentivize. We know that we encourage. That's how human brains operate. We all need the same stuff. We just forget that. And so as a tool, as a way to get results, this is amazing. This has been a big game changer for me and the dental practices I've worked with. Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic, isn't it? And so, Jayne, I'm just wondering, with the recession on our way, everyone's saying, oh, once the JobKeeper finishes, there's a foreseeable sort of recession up and coming. What is your top tip right now for front office coordinators to make sure? Because I know from speaking to a lot of owners, some of them are saying, look, we're actually not that unbusy. We're actually quite busy coming back. But then everyone's bracing themselves for this quietness that's potentially, prophesized that's coming. What's your number one tip right now to make sure that, the practice or the business is recession proof? Because I know obviously the front office coordinator plays a huge role in that as well.
Absolutely. And I'd never like to do this live on my video, but excuse me, everyone.
Well, good. I did say it's pretty candid.
I know. We're going to have a candid conversation here.
That's right.
And I think, my answer would be that we always should be making our businesses recession proof. I know it sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? It's like we should always be preparing for this. And there's been a lot of dental practices that have been okay during the quiet time because they save for a rainy day, so to speak. And sometimes, it can be because they've had previous experiences. Like I know, we went through I think it was 1991 recession that we had to have, and it was awful for our business, and we had to pivot and change. And to the point where we actually, I know our personal story was we actually even had to sell our house to pay for our business. And that wasn't, that was a scary time. That was, we thought we were doing so well. We were paying off our home, no mortgage, and then we were all excited. But, and it totally is live, we're really excited about, being business owners and being able to run our business, and then we took a big dive. But then we picked back up again because we had to. We had some things into place to be ready for that, and we still have, in our business, we still had that going, and that's what helped us. But you want to always be nurturing your existing patients. This is where we've had quiet time with COVID-19. We've then had now we're having a surge. Everyone's saying to me, I've been contacting people saying, look, I can see that there's a lot of people needing help right now. No, we've had a lot. It's like, oh my gosh, it's manic out there. I can't fit them all in. But you're right. There is going to be a lull because we're trying to fit all the people that we couldn't fit in before. So we're we're playing catch up. We're trying to fit them all in, and then there's going to be that lull. So, my advice would be, you still want to be nurturing and being in front of people who are going to be your new patients or prospective patients, but don't lose sight of your existing patients. The people who are loyal to you, really increase, keeping in contact with those people. And the practices that did this during COVID-19 will see the benefits of that. But really nurture them with that whole customer service, that patient experience. What can I do for them? That's really going to make a big impact, not only with their dental treatment and care, but just looking after them as a person. Yes. Making them feel important and thanking them for their loyalty. That's what we should be now starting to focus on. Because if we get a lull in new patients, we're going to be relying on our existing patient base.
That's absolutely true, yes. I didn't think of that actually. Yeah, because in my mind I was like, oh, maybe it's time to really pump up getting new patients. But I think that's really, really good advice that, you don't give up on your old ones and the ones that have been loyal to you.
Yeah, because you look at, if you worked out your average cost of attracting a new patient to the practice and then starting at the, really, you look at all the people that maybe dropped off a little bit from you hadn't kept them close. So start to bring in those people. Have a go through I always say, go through your drawers and your filing cabinet and look at, for want of a better word, the gold mine of patients that are actually, they know you. And when you're making contact with those people and doing the follow-ups, make sure that you contact people that still know what you sort of look like and your name. Don't go too far into the past of trying to attract people to your practice again. But there's that possibility there. And if you have the time, and during COVID, a lot of practices did have the time. I'm working with a practice who's got a team member who has some health issues, can't work at the practice. She's working from home. She's gung-ho. She's like working so hard, reactivating patients they haven't seen or heard from for a while, and getting people back on track. So, and she's having great success with it because she can spend a bit more time on the phone. So she's not spending 2.4 minutes on the phone. Sometimes she does spend 8 minutes, but she's got the time right now. So look at, if you've got that available resource with your team members right now. I know we're back to level 1. So, but there are some practices that have team members who have got some health compromise who might still be working from home.
That's a very good point.
Yeah,
that is a good point. Now, obviously, this is my very first time doing a live, so I haven't managed to see the comments until now. I've just worked it out. I was like, where is it? And I can see here someone said, we've been pounding away at our existing patient list to welcome them back. And someone said, so much cheaper to reharvest them than to blast through advertising and AdWords. So look, it sounds like this is really resonating with everyone. And so that's really, really good advice there.
And I think the other bit of advice is, because I have been asked this question by not only my clients, but a lot of other people wanting to know, is that, should we tone down the marketing? Now, my thoughts are, if you can manage it financially to maintain, because you still want to be in front of people. You don't want to start saying, I'm just going to nurture my existing patients and forget about new patients right now, because we know that it's lovely to have that steady flow of people. And because of the emergency situation and people panicking, we did build up a fair bit of new patient during that time. I'm surprised at how many emergencies there were during COVID-19. I think even people delaying, and the emergency patients when we were on, our high level, and we couldn't actually see them because of aerosols. So it was a very fascinating time for sure. Yeah,
it's been a epic last 2 months, I reckon, and it will keep being.
Yeah, it's been 2 or 3. I feel like it's 4.
Maybe longer. I thought it was March when it hit. So
well, it's funny because I attended the ADX, and one day was cut short because we were actually there, with our company. And one day was cut short, and I had a birthday on the 10th of March, and I had a pre-COVID birthday, thank goodness.
Oh, good, happy birthday.
Got to go out to the restaurant. But I remember after that, it all just sort of it was amazing. I know we work from home, so we've had the ability to still maintain our contact with dentists and do what we always do, but it's been a really fascinating time. And all I can say is I'm so proud to be Australian. I'm so proud of what we've done as a nation as well.
Yes. We're super lucky.
Yeah, you wonder whether this is just a metaphor for our culture, for the way that we handle life. And, she'll be right, mate, has always been something I remember when I first moved here from England with my family, that mindset of, but still being considerate. When I look at people out and about, and even how we're, interacting with our patients, I'm very proud. Yeah.
No, it's good, isn't it? It really brings out the best in everyone. Yeah.
No. And proud of the profession too, Becky. I think, we've all really tried to help each other. And some, dentists have approached me and said, they're feeling like they really need some help at the moment, but they don't know where to go. And so the conversations that we've had with so many dentists, trying to guide them, trying to help them right now and set them up ready for the future has, it's
been phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, I did think that we might have some time for Q&A, but I do believe we have to wrap up, because I did say to everyone we'll keep it to under 40 minutes if we can. So thank you so much. It's been absolutely invaluable. It's been an absolute treat having you on with us in this program today. Is there anything else at all that you'd like to sort of say, anything else at all that you want to sort of finalize, or any final words, or even just to let us know, how people could potentially find you if they need to find you?
Yeah, I think my final words would be, and having sat in the chair of working at the front office, I know that it can be, as you said, a battle. I know it can be a challenge, but I also know that if you really work on your skills and your communication, that it becomes more of an enjoyable position. You become really, you're in control of who's actually sitting in the dental chair. So it's, you know, it's a really amazing feeling to know that you're the person that's making a huge difference in the business that you're working for. You know, when you go home at the end of the day, and this is the right people in your team who have the right attitude. And, you know, if you've had a little bit of a shift in your team members right now, don't panic. There's plenty of great people out there waiting to step into the roles that you have, but set your expectations right from the first day and really, you know, let them know what you expect and be okay with that. Because if you expect the best and you've got the best people working for you, it will be okay. Now, to contact me, we'll give you a link, Becky, to post on the video.
On the group. Excellent.
So, you know, if you go to my dentalphoneexcellence.com.au website, there's different avenues you can do. You can actually apply for a little strategy call. So some of the questions you may want to ask me personally, one-to-one. So I'm really happy to do that with anyone that's on listening today. So the other option is they can call me, and I always write this down. I don't know why. I should always remember my phone number, shouldn't I? But I've changed to a 1300 number because I'm tracking my calls. So I've got 1300-378-044. So if they want to call me on that number.
Just repeat that again, 1300.
1300-378-044. And the other option is on my website, it has the number at the top as well, which is probably easier, and an email. So there's lots of different avenues, Facebook page. So please, anything I can help you with right now, I'd love to speak to you and just see if maybe we are a good match. Sometimes I'm not always a good match for every practice, but, you know, once I get talking to people and find out, you know, what's really happening and what's concerning them, then we can set things up to find some solutions for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do have to say here, as you know, my team's worked with you, and one of the things that I found, you know, straight off the bat, everyone was just so convinced with everything that you were telling. Everyone was just so on board. And, you know, I don't see that all the time, having worked with, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, but you do need to find that right match, you know, when it comes to finding the right consultant to work with your team. So, yeah, it's been fantastic. All right, well, that's a wrap then. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Becky. Bye.
No, thanks, Jayne. Bye.